But I do think it's always important to remember that being emotionally vulnerable online, so talking about your struggles and stuff online, is essentially sitting in a room on your own and talking to a camera about your struggles. That is vastly different to communicating how you feel in an emotionally intimate way with somebody that's there in front of you. I am very good at conveying how I feel emotionally in this space, right? I can really reflect. I can do a lot of internal reflection, but put me in front of somebody whom I'm seeking attachment for, and I fall to bits. And I always try and get people to recognize this. Don't think that I am emotionally literate, that I have got my shit together emotionally necessarily. I've got like a rational, good understanding of it to a degree. And I've once heard Gabor Mate say, I have a lot of self-awareness. Sorry, I have a lot of awareness of myself, but I lack self-awareness. And that's definitely definitely quite true with how I show up to life, because in those personal relationships, what tends to happen to me is I get overwhelmed and then I can't communicate how I feel at all and I shut down. That's like certainly the way that it plays out for me. Now, how does that relate to people pleasing, and how does that relate to a fear of confrontation? So within all of my relationships, you have to sort of look over the course of my life here to understand this. And try and do this with your own life, right? Look over the course of your life. If you're a people pleaser like me, what you'll find is that instead of developing that healthy sense of self when you were younger, you develop that healthy sense of self under the loving gaze of a loving parent, right? You do that through their unconditional love. They mirror back at you love through all of your like emotional expression. So when you're happy, sad, rageful, jealous, all of those things, when you're a child, you will still be fed. You're supposed to still have been fed the information that you are lovable in all of these aspects of yourself. However you're showing up, you are still lovable, right? That's how you develop a healthy sense of self, because you start to realize that I am enough. Your great I amness becomes prominent as you develop that sense of self under that loving gaze. Now, introduce any kind of dysfunction into your childhood, somebody who's not able to have sadness, for example, then you're going to find that you wouldn't have been allowed your sadness. And so you don't develop a conscious belief that I shouldn't be sad because it upsets everybody. But subconsciously, you develop that idea. And so you maybe overly simplistically would say you develop a sense of shame whenever you feel sad to stop yourself from being sad, right? Because that's how you be accepted by the very person from whom you're seeking attachment from when you're a child, right? So when you recognize that you all have a parent or parents that sit somewhere on that dysfunctional to functional scale. If you sit right at the toxic end, then your people-pleasing self is probably or likely going to have been really strong. And then depending on where you sit, and there's many other varying factors, right? But you will have developed that sense of people-pleasing. And what a lot of people do, and this is what I did as well, is you develop your sense of self not based around who you are, but based around how you make yourself lovable within that what becomes conditional relationship with your parents. So it could just be that they don't do emotions, so they don't do sadness, they don't do difficult emotions. And so the conditions upon you receiving the love in the way that you needed and wanted it needed be very, very important here. You learn not to bring those certain emotions, right? So that's how the dysfunction sets, right? And it's not, again, you've got to think about this in more of a kind of body sense, because none of this is happening like a conscious level. You don't have a parent that says, or actually sometimes you will have, but you don't necessarily have a parent that says, don't be sad because I don't like it. But their actions, the way that they show up, their energy, how you feel and experience them when you're a child would have taught you that message. So what happens is you don't develop that healthy sense of self. Here I am in all of my freedom and all of my glory, my great I amness. You don't do that, right? You develop this sense of self based on how other people see you,